numerology or if that number means anything to you.
I'd love to know more.
Well,
I mean,
I actually don't know a lot about 23, but I always tell people what their number is just in case. Okay, great. So we're live. So thank you so much, Charmaine, for coming on the show. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
it's an absolute honor. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, so let's see. So Charmaine and I were pretty recent Facebook friends, right? Like we just connected and yeah, it just kind of felt right. Like, hey, like come on the show.
Yeah, it was this immediate connection, and it really unfolded quite naturally. It was awesome. So thank you for the invitation to speak with you today.
Yeah, and Charmaine, you're in Colorado, right?
That is correct.
Oh man, I miss Colorado. There's a lot of times I miss it, and then I remind myself of all the snow and driving through the snow, and then I'm like, okay.
Yes, well, I would love to know, so to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, did you used to live here?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I moved out there in, I think it was like the summer of 2019. And then I was out there for a little over a year. I lived for a little bit in Broomfield, and then I lived in, well, it used to be called Stapleton. And I think now it's called Central Park or something like that. Like they renamed the area.
Indeed, you did.
Yeah.
For a good reason, for a very good reason, they renamed
Right.
it.
What area do you live in?
I'm in southwest of the city. I'm in Littleton. So the foothills are like, I'm in my office right now, and I literally, if I look out my office window, the foothills are like a long arm's reach. It's like 5 minutes away. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. I had a couple friends that lived in Littleton. So
Yeah. Whereabouts are you now? If you don't mind me asking, I know we're just getting to dive into the knowing of each other, but I would love to know where you're at too.
well, right now, currently, I'm in the suburbs of Atlanta. I'm staying in Dunwoody at the moment. I'm in an Airbnb. Tomorrow, I'm driving down to Florida, so I'll be hitting up some places down there.
Oh, beautiful. Getting near that Mother Ocean, huh?
Oh yeah, the ocean for me is
Go away. Sorry, my video
here.
stopped. I'm so sorry. There we go.
Yeah, the ocean for me is just it's so nourishing, and there's something about it, just like the smell and the sounds. And I grew up as a child, we had a beach home, my grandparents did. So I have a lot of fond memories of being at the beach, and so every time I'm there, it's so good for my soul. So good.
Do you have a deep connection to the ocean itself? Like when you step into the ocean?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
I don't know what it is about the ocean. Every time I'm near it, I get so teary-eyed. It's like I mirror the element of the water, and there's just something so just profound about the ocean. It's like I can't even really quite put it into words, Leigh. It just absolutely mesmerizes me.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. It feels like home. It feels like
Yeah.
home to me. And so I don't know if maybe like in a past life I was a mermaid or like a sea animal, or I have like maybe an inkling that I had a past life in Atlantis, but
Mhm.
who knows? Who knows? I mean, all life did originate from the ocean.
Indeed, it did. And a huge portion of our body is made up of water. So I know we all have different astrological signs and we all connect with different elements, but the fact that we have so much water within us and we're surrounded by water, there is something to be said about that. And yeah, I just, with the cleansing aspect and just my mad, like deep respect for the ocean and the marine life, and like I don't know. I like what you said. It feels like home. It does feel like home now that I lean into that. Yeah, it does.
And I've actually got my really good friend Kristen is in the chat, and she was saying how much she misses it, and she resonates with the mermaid.
I feel you, sister. I do too, as well. Being a Pisces, um, it just feels so natural to me, and it's almost to the point, Leigh. I'm curious how you feel about this, but I won't even like really eat fish because I respect those that do, by all means, but for me, my body, and I don't know. I just feel since I was little, I've always had this resistance to it. And I'm like,
Interesting.
must be my mermaidness. I don't know. How do you feel? Like, does that resonate with you at all? I don't know. Excuse me, I needed a sip of water. I don't know. That's just where I'm at with it. So.
I mean, I eat mostly plant-based, so I don't
Yeah.
really eat, like a lot of animal products.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think, and for me, I mean, there's several reasons why I do it, but I mean, for one, I don't think it's really that safe to be eating things from the ocean right now because of all the polluting that we're doing to it, and the radiation and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I really do feel for the marine life. Like I said, I have so much respect for the ocean and what she carries, and I just leave her be, as
yeah,
much as I can. I try and contribute to her as much as I can by choosing things that support her, or I know we're all aware now that the ocean needs cleanup. Um, and is very toxic. And so anything I can do to contribute the cleanup of it, I certainly do and will continue to do. So
yeah. I mean, even I don't know if you've seen I think it's called Chasing Coral, that documentary.
no, I
It's a good
haven't.
one. But
Okay.
it talks about the side effects of a lot of the sunscreens that people use, and how those chemicals are so toxic and how they affect the water also. So
Wow, now I have a new documentary to put in the queue. Anything around the ocean. I was watching, I don't know if you've seen, and I don't want to mispronounce the name of the charity that brought out they hired these famous actors to be the voices of certain elements in our earth, and they hired Harrison Ford to be the voice of the ocean. And it's this series of videos and commercial. I think they were out on TV for a while, but this one particular one really caught my eye, and it was around the ocean. And you hear Harrison Ford's voice as Mother Ocean is talking, and it's showing the plastic floating in the ocean, and the unfortunate fish that are floating up to the shores, and we don't know why they're transitioning. And it says that the ocean says, all I need to do is raise a half a foot if I choose to, and I can wipe out everything.
swallow every
Or,
I know. I know. It's
you
crazy to
know,
think.
yeah, it just blows my mind. Just very, like I said, very mesmerized, very just such deep gratitude and respect for the ocean. So
Yeah, I heard recently someone say on a podcast I was listening to that I think he had gone into like a mushroom journey and connecting with Mama Gaia, and he said she's still thinking about what she wants to do if she wants to keep us.
yeah, yeah, right. She's like, hey, humans, y'all been acting up. So, you know, I have, quite a bit of, what are the words, just such power and, strength to create a cleansing if I really want to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think people don't really understand or realize that. So how has your 2022 been so far?
Yes, it's been a day by day. It really has been. As we stepped into the last few years and all of these unknowns, and having some interesting rides with challenges and anxieties and what have you. This year's a little different. It feels like it's a little softer for me, and I literally have just been really trying to focus on stepping into each day. It's like, okay, today's Tuesday. So, yay, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm grateful, and I'm focusing on today, which, we could say is present, practicing present moment awareness or what have you. But to me, it's about really living each day instead of going, oh, I don't know, what's coming up in March, astrologically, or I'm feeling something, like I feel something brewing. It's like, Charmaine, stop, let's come back to Tuesday. So that feels softer to me, Leigh. And it's been quite enjoyable, actually, just sitting with that practice. And it's a daily practice. Like I went every morning, I wake up, I step in a meditation. It's like, okay, what's today? And let's just, be here today. So that's really what I've been trying to do. How
Mm.
about you? How's it been for you?
It's been like that.
Okay.
I resonate a lot with that, and I'm sure a lot of people do. It definitely feels like this year feels more like it's going to be about balance, bringing in a lot more balance and harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially people who have kind of been doing the work for a little bit, you know, this time has been it's been like an opportunity, an additional opportunity to be with yourself and go in and have introspection and all of that. And I've been thinking a lot about, like, I ask myself this every day: what do I want? What do I really want? Like, who are the people I want in my life? What activities do I want to fill my day with? What kind of reality and experience do I want to have? Because we get to create it. It's magic. We get to do that. Um, so I've been asking myself that question a lot lately. And yeah, I think just kind of taking it day by day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's been very helpful for me. Like, I know that I've got some things upcoming and happening, and but not focusing too much on that, and like bringing, like you said, bringing the awareness back to the present moment. And even when I'm having a conversation with someone, just really being present with that person. And um it's been interesting because I've noticed that, you know, not everyone does that. Not everyone maybe is conscious of or has the capability of doing that. And then, additionally for myself, like taking a step back from those conversations as kind of an act of self-love for myself, because, of what I'm realizing that I'm worthy of and what I deserve. And, being worthy of an interaction with another being that's also fully present with me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so beautiful. I, I'm also hearing, like, when you're fully present with someone, and we could call that quality time. Like right now, I'm thoroughly enjoying quality time with you, even if it is via Zoom, it's still quality time. And one of the bigger things I've really learned and stepped into in the last 10 years, Leigh, has been active listening. And how beneficial that is to, not only Leigh, but also to myself. When you're actively listening to someone, you are present with them. And that's a gift. It's a true gift to give to your friend and to yourself, because if I'm actively listening to you right now, I'm not doing anything else. And I'm giving you that energy of really honoring and acknowledging what you're saying. So I just thought I'd share that piece of what you were sharing is, the present moment awareness in conversation with someone and really being actively present with them. So
Yeah, that's so important.
yeah.
I don't know, I've been kind of noticing that and I'm not sure if this is gosh, I hate to say that. Like I'm not, I don't want to assign it to a gender or anything like that. Um, but I've been noticing that sometimes people, and I think they're not even conscious that they're doing it, but they tend to like dominate a conversation where it becomes almost like a, just like a monologue, or um maybe something that would be more appropriate for like a therapist's office.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's just interesting what I'm observing with recent conversations and interactions with people. um
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. I'm very curiously, what are your thoughts on, well, they kind of, I don't know. What I'm hearing is like, acknowledgement, but what are your thoughts on being seen and heard?
Oh gosh, I think that everyone deserves that, and I think that's what everyone really wants deep down, to be
Mhm.
seen and heard. um and I think most of us have not experienced that, or they're not accustomed to experiencing that. They grew up in a house where that never happened. um so now, I mean, and I can speak from personal experience, as an adult, it's a new thing to be fully seen by someone and fully heard by someone.
Yes. Yeah. That's I completely relate and agree, but we could say we all want to be seen and heard. And I've had these conversations with loved ones in my life, and some of my friends and loved ones have responded and said, well, I was overseen and heard. And so then I became a shy teenager. Perhaps my mom put me on stage. Like, one of my friends is a dancer as a child, and her mother had her on stage, and it wasn't exactly what she wanted to do. So she had said she was overseen and heard, and so as it inspired her as a teenager to really go inward and to back away from that, because it was more of this force. And now she's really really focusing on balance in it. um, so I've been hearing that too. I never even, if it could even occurred to me that you could have been forced into it. And then there's someone that was, as a child or even as an adult, has been pushed away when they're expressing their feelings, and so they're finding other ways to express it, and maybe that is domineering of conversation.
Yeah, it's a
um,
really good point. It's a really good point. I
yeah.
mean, I guess when I think of being seen and heard, I think about being being seen for who you actually are, like at a soul level.
Mhm.
And I think some of that is just energetic and just kind of like feeling and sensing into the space.
Right.
um yeah, so I mean, I don't know, like maybe if somebody was kind of like forced into doing things, maybe that's not truly them, or
Mhm.
maybe that's not what they would have chosen, so you have to
Mhm.
think about like, well, was that really like an authentic representation? Was that like an authentic soul expression? Or were they doing it but they were unhappy at the same time? um so when I think of being seen and heard, I think about being seen and heard like in your full authenticity.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And, you know, I don't, I can't speak for all humans. None of us are going to, right? But um, how many of us can relate with having at least been judged once in our life? Um, and why does that feel so uncomfortable in the body when you're feeling judged? And there's a million different scenarios on how you can feel, how one person can feel judged. But the reason I'm bringing that in is because when you're being judged, what you're saying and what I'm hearing you say is that's someone not acknowledging your true self. Because if I don't know what exactly I'm trying to say. I think I'm just trying to say that, for someone to really see you as your full authentic self, then they're acknowledging who you are, and they're listening to you, and there's a neutral sacred space they're holding. There's no, well, why are you doing that, Leigh? There's no questionings around it.
Mhm.
There's just acknowledging. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
And Kristen said, sometimes I want to be seen, and other times it can be overwhelming to really
Yeah.
be seen because I haven't always been seen and heard on a soul level.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. Yeah. I very much acknowledge that. See, what you're seeing, Kristen, is where you have the underseen and when you have the overseen, right? And
Yeah,
it's
this
kind of
is such
nice.
an this is so interesting because I've never even thought about the overseen.
Yeah, yeah, it is a thing, right? Um, it's and and with each person I connect with, whether it's Leigh or a client or a friend or someone in the grocery store, um, if I'll give that as an example. When we're in the grocery store and someone's going to grab one of those little baggy deals at the produce, the ones that take forever to open up and you have to put your fruit in.
I hate those
Um,
bags.
yeah, it's just like you're sitting there for an hour and you're like, come on, baby, just
I
open.
always feel like I'm like, is something wrong with me? Because I can't open up these things like everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, so I was just thinking as an example, like if you're going to reach for one of those bags and you can tell another person's waiting for you to reach from one of those bags. If you pull off one of those bags and hand it to the person that's waiting, can you imagine how good that feels to that person because they're acknowledged that they're there? Now I may not do that every time, but I'm trying to be more conscious of that because then to me, that's acknowledging that the person's waiting for the bag. And I don't know.
Or
I don't know if that's the best example, but
no, I get it. Or like if you're walking into the store and there's someone right behind you, like, kind of holding it so it doesn't shut on them.
mhm,
It's
mhm,
the same kind of thing, just like having that awareness. Um,
yes,
yeah.
indeed.
And like I think like one of the saddest things to me is I think this happens a lot with like the homeless population is they're like they feel invisible, like they're not seen by anyone, like people just walk right by them like they're not even there.
Oh,
That's incredibly sad to me.
it's so sad to me. And and then the energy behind that is, I mean, there's that sadness for you, what I'm hearing, but then also, how does it feel for them? Like if Leigh is feeling sad for them, can you imagine what it feels like for them? I can't even
I can't.
imagine.
I can't.
To just be complete. I mean, have we all had moments of feeling invisible? I'm curious for anyone that's listening and would love to answer. And what does that feel like in your body? And if that, imagine that times, I don't want to speak on behalf of the homeless population, but a billion times more, I don't know. I just, it is very sad.
Like I've had times, because I used to be a lot more of an introverted person
Okay.
before I guess before my awakening, or I started kind of shifting myself. But I remember I used to go to parties and I would feel like so invisible and so like disconnected from everyone else there. And I would just kind of be like in the corner and I'd just be like watching everything. And I'd be like, yeah, I feel like I'm completely invisible. Um,
Mhm.
and there's still some times where I'll even go out, and this is a quite surreal experience. Sometimes I'll go out into the world and I do sometimes feel invisible, but not in a bad way, more like I'm just kind of existing in a different space somehow, and like people just don't see it, but it's like I'm fine with it. It's just it's very weird. It's very weird.
Yeah. To make sure I'm hearing you correctly, is it when you were in high school compared to like now, it sounds like a different relationship with where you were at that party as opposed to being out in community now,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
It's a different perspective on it, I think, is what's happening.
Mhm.
It's like kind
Yeah.
it's like kind of the same thing. I mean, when I used to go to these parties and I was kind of like shy and I didn't really know how to like start conversation with people. Whereas now, like I'll just walk up to people and engage them, and it's totally different. Um, so yeah, it's just all these different like nuances of these feelings and experiences. It's just yeah, it's really interesting to think about all that stuff.
Indeed, it is. I am curious too, Leigh. Like you had shared a couple of sentences ago about an awakening, but you used parentheses. So I'm just curious, like what inspired you to step into that? Was there a specific event, or was there a multitude? I mean, I don't want to. I'm gonna, ask the question and just allow you to
Oh
answer.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just was curious.
Uh-huh. Um, so it's hard to like really pinpoint, because I think it was kind of a more gradual process. But I would say there was in 2018, I went to a music festival, and the whole entire weekend was just so full of all these different synchronicities that I couldn't, it was just like in my face. Like I couldn't ignore all the synchronicities that were happening. And
Mhm.
now, of course, I have constant synchronicities all the time, to where it's like just a normal part of my life.
Awesome.
But back then it was just like, whoa, it was something new.
Uh-huh.
And then in early 2019, I started working with ayahuasca. Um, and that kind of, I would say, kind of skyrocketed my shifting. And ever since then it's just been like, you know, buckle up and hold on.
Yeah, the double like seatbelt strap.
Make sure you're strapped all the way in, lock it, make sure it's real secure.
Yes.
what about
Wow.
what about you?
I would say honestly, it was the death of a loved one. My 16-year-old cousin crossed tragically when I was in my early 20s. And I stepped away from my faith and spirituality. I was like, really, universe? And I threw in the towel. I didn't understand at the time. It was such a, it was such a deep loss. I mean, it was such a tragic loss, but you know, it was an unprocessed loss. It for me, stepping away from my, my faith, my spirituality, I got lost for a while. I felt like I was one of just this human kind of walking on earth, and I was like, I don't know. I just, you know, it just, I was questioning everything, and I was having a hard time understanding why this would happen. And if I fast forward, I actually went to a spa in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, and they have this, oh, I can't think of it right now. It's this tank. It's this,
Is it
it
the
has water in
flotation
it.
tank?
I'm so sorry.
The flotation tank.
Thank you. Yes, it was a flotation tank. And I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool. And so I scheduled a session. I had no clue what would entail. And she, the practitioner opens the door and she's like, okay, you're going to sit in this, very lukewarm salt water, and it's about this deep. And we're going to close the door. And if it gets to be too much, you can knock and we can open it. And she closes the door and it's pitch black. Okay. And I'm going, all right, I'm going to work through this. Like, I'm a little uncomfortable. But I'm not kidding you, Leigh. I'll never forget this experience. I felt like I was in my mother's womb. I felt like I was hanging out, with the angels. I mean, it was this, to me, in my faith, it was spirit knocking on my door saying, we're here and we've never left you. And that was one of the biggest shifts for me, was, again, trusting and creating this relationship again with spirit. And after that, things just totally started to shift for me. I had already been in massage therapy school, but that's when I knew I was supposed to go in this energy work, journey and so forth. But really what it is it instilled my spirituality practice. And that, to me, I'll just never forget that experience. That's when I knew that there was so much to life. I just lost it for a while,
Mhm. Yeah. And I'm curious like how many people can resonate with that, because I mean that sounds like being lost, like forgetting who we are,
Mm-hmm.
and then going through this whole process of remembering, because
Mm-hmm.
it's always, you've always, sometimes I catch myself and I'll say, I became a new person or a different version, or all these phrases. And it's like, no, what's happening is I'm just chipping away at the stuff that wasn't me, and this, the stuff that wasn't actually real, to get to me.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's been there the whole time. I just forgot.
Completely forgot. And I think about, the times in my life, and that's not the only time where I've really stepped into some lost space. Okay. But those times, and that's how I feel. I felt like it could be different for everyone, but I was feeling very lost. And then I've, a few years later, I stepped into, just kind of numbing myself, and I like to call the lost woods, just in this lot. I'm just lost in the woods. I don't know what I'm doing. And during those times, those, for me, darker times for sure, have the most profound experiences too. Because yes, is it Charmaine lost in the woods and kind of doing, that? Absolutely. but in order for me to find myself, I had to get lost sometimes. As hard as that is to say, I'm realizing in my body it was true. And so I've learned a lot through the Lost Woods days.
Yeah, the lost woods, the dark nights,
Yeah.
whatever people want to call it, these, these like really challenging initiations. That's what I call them now. They're like initiations into really like standing in your true power. And yeah, they can be so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It can be
Yes.
so uncomfortable. But then, eventually you get to a point where you're like, okay, like this is another one of those uncomfortable periods. And I know on the other side there's this gold.
You're right. Yeah. You hear of that description of the lotus flower, how it's hanging out in that muddy water, but you've got this beautiful flower on top. And I've more related with the muddy waters than the lotus flower, because the muddy waters to me feel like truth. Even if during my lost forest years, days, months, I was like really searching for truth within myself and within my life. And not saying I don't have that now. I've never lived a more authentic life than I have in the past 10 years. But prior to that, it ebbed and flowed. There were times I was not honoring the truth within myself and honoring really what I see in myself. But those muddy waters, I like how you said this initiation. Did I hear that correctly? Did you called it initiation? There's, to me, so much truth to it, and completely naked.
Yeah. So for those who are still kind of like in that ebb and flow, because like honestly, I still feel an ebb and flow right now. What would be like your words of wisdom to impart, or like maybe some advice you would give to those people
that are in the ebb and flow? To me, it's embracing each step. I loved your word of uncomfortable, how no matter where you're at in life, of this ebb and flow. And we know living on this planet is going to have its grief, its loss, its hurts, its uncomfortableness, pain, all illness, so forth. But to really truly, as uncomfortable it can be, to embrace each step with it, because like you said, there is light on the other side. There's always love, but there's light to look forward to. And sometimes it takes days, weeks, months, years. And to me, it's just embracing all of it instead of resisting it.
Yes.
And it's okay to be human and resist it at moments too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've learned that it helps to just lean in to it, whatever it is, just lean in.
Yeah.
And like you said, embrace it and surrender to it. Absolutely. But one thing I have noticed that's been really cool is I've noticed now it's taking me less time. Like I'm able to move through my things more quickly, which that's good to me. It's like, okay, I'm progressing.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe I didn't handle that situation the best, but I handled it better than I would have before.
Which to me, I don't know, I'm just hearing that, that through the ebbs and flows of growth and challenges, that comes wisdom within ourselves and awareness.
Absolutely. Wisdom, discernment,
Mhm.
self-love,
Absolutely. Yeah.
all of those things.
All the things. Yeah. That, um, depending on the moment, have their beauty to them.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, to me, every moment's beautiful. I mean, unless I mean, what am I trying to say? There's, yes, we have, if we've just lost a loved one or lost a job or a friendship, or someone's gone ill, or you're experiencing illness in your body right now at this moment, it's hard to look at that as beautiful. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there are moments of beauty to experiences in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so curious. So I didn't tell you guys yet what all Charmaine does. Oh my gosh. You do a bunch of things.
A lot of tools in the toolbox on the belt, I guess.
Yeah. So you're a body worker, you're a Reiki master, and then you're like a medical intuitive slash medium, right?
Correct. Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that is so like anything having to do with mediumship, I'm just like, it's so fascinating to me. So what brought you into that field, or was there something that like led you to it, or maybe like an ability that you feel like you've always had?
Well, so I would say it's an ability I've always had. I mean, since I was a little girl, I remember being at my grandparents' home in Holly, Minnesota, and my cousins and I would play in my grandparents' basement, which, as a little kid, your mind is just it's so creative, and it's so wanders, and it's just this wonderment, right? And as a little girl, I can't even recall the age, maybe 6 or 7 years old, I would see flashes of spirit, and I'd be like, what? And it was particularly in my grandparents' home. And at first it did scare me, and I would run up the stairs, and I know I was not creating it in my head. And I would see flashes of spirit throughout my young years. Long story short, when some of my family members crossed, one being my grandmother, who is a spirit guide of mine, my father's mom, she visited me the night she crossed and made her presence known. And I knew then, I was like, this is confirming what I'm seeing. And I never really shared it. I think I shared it with my mom. And she was like, right on. She didn't deny it or anything. So I did feel very acknowledged by her, with that. And then then I fast forward more when I took my Reiki training and started offering Reiki to community. When I would go to lay my hands down on my clients, I would see, loved ones that have crossed, or their spirit guides would show up. And I'm like, apparently I'm doing messages for you now too. And so with Reiki, Leigh, messages have always come through for me. And so I've just shared the messages too. I just trusted. I was like, cool. I mean, if there's messages you want to share, I'm honored. And then, fast forward a few more years, I started getting nudges from my spirit guides. It's like, okay, Charmaine, we love working with you in the Reiki realm, and we want to start just offering messages to community by ourselves. And especially hearing from loved ones that have crossed. And so I just started offering, spirit readings, and it continues to unfold. I was introduced to medical intuition a couple of years ago, just the term, and it's really, to make sure, everyone knows, you hear the word medical and it's, oh, did she get a doctorate? I did not. It's always been naturally within me where I've been able to scan people's bodies and their bodies give me messages. With their permission. I would never do it without permission. And so, but the last, I want to say it was maybe 5-6 months ago, I got, a message when I was in meditation one morning that said, let's look at that medical intuition training for the educational purposes of it, because it has some advancement to it. And, I heard for community, and I was like, okay, sure, I did it. And I took, I just slowly started taking this training, and it's been so much fun. And I already know I've been doing the work, but now I'm, feeling called to now offer those sessions as well. So that's a long answer to your question, but that's how it's all unfolded.
Oh man, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So if you were to do, say, okay, so what do you officially coin that session, that type of session where you're scanning someone? What would that be called?
Well, a medical intuitive session is, what does it entail? Is that what I'm hearing you ask?
Oh, no, sorry.
I'm sorry.
So a medical intuitive session, I was just reaching for the for the term, the name of it. Yeah, and then what would that look like? Like, how long would it last? Does it depend on the person?
Yeah, so I offer them at 45 minutes, and what I do is, it's the sacred relationship I create with the client and myself. And really, truly, I'm stepping into their field, and I have the permission from them, and I scan all their bodies. So I scan their physical body, I scan their emotional body, their energy body, and their spiritual body. And I share with them, I give them my assessment. So it's kind of a speaking, we're both engaged. I mean, they're lying on my table, or I also offer them via phone or Zoom. But really what it is it's a conversation I'm having with my client, and I'm telling them what I see, and then they share why that's coming to light. And I do write everything down, and I recap everything because it's a lot to remember. And then sometimes spirit likes to give homework. I want to honor all my clients' privacy, but if someone I don't diagnose, because I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a mental health professional. And I highly recommend people continue to seek that care. But if we've come to the conclusion that there's something going on in the kidneys, perhaps, and this might be why maybe spirit and their body is saying, hey, I could use a little bit more of green lettuce, or, I'm just giving an example of how to support that particular organ. So it is a very in-depth scan. And people, tend to come to me for medical intuitive sessions for many reasons. But a few of them I've heard is because they haven't been getting the answers from their professional care. And this is another option for them.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense because Western medicine is, it has its limitations. There's certain things that I think is really great for, but other things maybe not so much. And especially with autoimmune disorders, there's no explanation whatsoever in the medical system for those. But from my own personal experience, when I was in my I think it was my early 30s, I started to get this really bad chest pain, angina, I guess is what that would be termed as. And I just kind of had this sense that something was really wrong. And I remember going to the doctor at the time, and they checked my heart and they said, well, your heart's fine and it's really healthy. And she said, it's probably just acid reflux. And, take this pill, like, Prilosec or whatever it was. I don't remember. And I just remember thinking to myself at the time, because I had already been through this like really horrible experience with the medical system by this point. So I didn't fully trust them anyway. And I was like, no, that's not what it is. Like, I kind of already knew that's not what it was. And it was a lot of emotional stuff. It was like a lot of grief and sadness and resentment and anger, and all that stuff was just like laying on top of my heart and kind of crushing it down. And so it was only when I really started to do the internal work and the emotional and trauma release that it went away, and I've never had a problem with that since. But it just goes to show you, there's a lot of things going on with people, and I'm pretty convinced that a lot of it is related to emotions and traumas that just manifests as various diseases in the body. And of course it's important to put good foods in there too. But yeah, there's just so much that the medical system just doesn't understand, so it completely makes sense why people would come to you.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, just want to acknowledge that you knew that this is what's my physical body is showing up, but there's layers to this, and I'm the answers I'm getting are not from others, they're actually within me. And with the work I do, I'm supporting my clients working through their body for themselves, if that makes sense. So yes, am I relaying the messages that their body is saying out loud? But they're doing all the work.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the work. They're doing all the work. That's why they arrive here on my table or on the phone. Because it's, whether you're at your wit's end and you're not getting answers, or you're just very curious, why does my left ankle hurt? And I'm not really understanding why. And you come to me and let's see what your body wants to tell us why it's hurting. So I love that you were really, you healed it on your own, and our bodies truly can heal themselves.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's what I wish for every person, is that they can be empowered in their own healing abilities, and connect with their own intuition in that knowing. Yeah.
Yes, me too. That's all I wish for everyone
Yes.
on this planet. On this planet, all living beings, to really just honor themselves and really listen to their bodies. You listen to your body, it's amazing what it's going to tell you. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
love that. I love that. And I'm just, yeah, I'm so fascinated by mediumship in general. That's so cool to me. I love that.
Sweetheart, it is so fascinating, and we're all born with intuition. We're all born with it. It's just whether we want to lean into it, tap into it, or not. And we may not be even conscious that we're using it. There's times where you're like, I'm driving down the road and something tells me go left instead of straight, and you go left and you realize you missed an accident. Now, could we say that's a premonition? Is that intuition? Your body, your energy knew to go left and you listened to it. It's, one of the biggest connections for me with spirit and my intuition is trust.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. I step out of the way when spirit wants to chat, when, loved ones want to chat with my clients that have crossed. I just step out of the way. I'm like, no, it's a complete honor to share the message, but I'm literally just the messenger. That's it. I'm just sharing the message. I'm the postman of spirit message. So yeah, no, Yeah, really. But the biggest thing with the work is trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I feel like one of the main barriers to kind of prevent people from doing that is not feeling safe in their bodies.
Yeah, very much so. And because it is so unknown, and if you try and control messages from spirit, you're not gonna get anything. It's gonna go silent. Or if you're trying to accommodate what the client wants to hear,
Right.
you're also not gonna get messages. So are there things I see that may not be super awesome? Yes. Do I hold them back from clients? I don't. I
Hmm.
may find a way to express it so it's not as intense.
A little bit more gentle
So
around.
it's gentle, but it's still a message that spirit and their higher self wants to hear. And it's not my right to take that away from them. Then Charmaine's ego's get in the way, and then we're just humaning again. You know what I mean? So
Right. Yeah, and Kristen says trust is definitely my biggest lesson. Yeah, it's a huge, huge lesson just to like let
yeah.
go and surrender and like just trust in the universe that it's got your back and that it's working for your highest good and like everything is going to be fine. And um, you know, just like listening to the messages that come through
Mhm.
and letting your soul guide you. And even if it's like it sounds crazy, right? You're like, wait, what? This doesn't make any sense. But you got to just do it anyway, even if it doesn't make sense.
Well, absolutely. And I think when I hear Kristen say about the trust is, be gentle with yourself because especially when it's scary or unknown, our brain is going to go, I don't know about this. I'm going to, what am I seeing right now? Or what am I hearing? What am I feeling? What am I knowing? There's so many different ways to tap into your intuitive channels. And there's going to be times that you're like, oh, wow, I'm a little uncomfortable hearing that or knowing that. But again, if we can acknowledge that, but then also lean into trust a little bit, it unfolds, and then it provides this more safety to the
Yeah,
messages.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think there's this whole like there's this illusion of safety
Mhm.
where people think like, oh, if I have these materials and this house and these things, like I'm safe and I can like control my environment and control all these things. But like what they don't realize is you're actually not in control of any of that and it can
Mhm.
all get taken away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we don't we don't really control that kind of stuff. Yeah, Kristen was saying when I get super stressed about something, I just repeat everything is for highest good. I let go of expectations and usually I feel calm after a few minutes of meditating on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, Kristen, it's letting go of expectations is successful. I mean, there's depends on the scenario that you have an expectation. If you sign up for a online course, for instance,
Right.
and you're expecting a certain outcome from the online course, I mean, I guess that I don't know if that's the best example, but there's going to be some scenarios where expectations are going to serve you, but I would say a lot of times expectations are not going to serve us. They can be very unsuccessful because we're like what I'm hearing Kristen maybe say is letting go of the control, or Leigh, you said about surrendering
Hmm.
to it.
Yeah, because especially if we have a certain expectation, and I totally agree with that. If you pay X amount of money and they say these are the outcomes of the program, like you should expect,
Yeah,
to get those. Absolutely.
right, right.
Um, as far as just life and all of the unknowns of life, I mean,
Mhm.
if you go into a situation with a specific expectation and you're like, okay, well, this is what needs to happen, and it doesn't, and it, or maybe it's like in a different way, you know, then you're going to be disappointed, or you're going to feel like, oh, I failed, or this didn't work, or this wasn't right, you know. So it can create a lot of disappointments and feelings of failure, I think.
Yes, indeed. I think about how many times a client has come to me for spirit reading and expecting to hear from like grandma that crossed. And I always just invite my clients to come in with openness, because maybe grandma doesn't want to chat today. And so you're not let down if grandma doesn't want to chat today, you know? So there's an opportunity to come in with openness. And I think that can apply to so many things in our life. When you come in it from openness, and we know life in general, whether we're living in a pandemic or not, is going to continuously inspire unknown. It just is.
Absolutely. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It's like, what's going to happen? I don't know. I mean, it's exciting and scary at the same time, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but,
absolutely.
so if people want to get in touch with you, what I'll do after we get off is I'll post like all your links in the description so people can just click. But what's your preferred method, or what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they're interested in talking more or working with you?
Oh, thank you, Leigh. Whether it's via text or phone call, via my business cell or my business email, which is receivinc@gmail.com. Those are the best ways to get in touch with me. I am on social media. I do have an IG business page as well as a Facebook business page. But I try and honor just moments of social media. So I'm definitely more available on the phone and email.
Yeah, sorry, there's some dogs in the background that are going crazy right now.
Oh,
I was trying to keep myself on mute.
that's awesome.
But
They want to be acknowledged. They're like,
they do. They're like,
hey,
I want to be heard.
hello, time to eat or go for a walk or
Yeah,
snuggles.
I think there's like a mailman or trash people or something at the Airbnb I'm at. But anyway, it was such a pleasure to have you on. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for this.
Thank
It
you.
was such an honor, and I love your energy so much.
Thank you, Leigh. Likewise, I so appreciate you. I appreciate the invitation, and I just cherish this time with you. Really, truly, it's been amazing. I could do it for about 4 more hours. Just enjoying the
Yeah, I
conversation.
probably
So
could
thank
too,
you.
but I'm like, I know people's attention span,
Yeah,
they can only they can only do so much. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
I
want
hope
to honor the
everybody
time.
watching has really enjoyed our conversation.